Welcome back to my channel. In this video we'll be learning about Spring Boot. So what is Spring Boot? So Spring Boot is a Java framework for developing enterprise standalone application. By that I mean we can use Spring Boot to develop complex web application. We can collaborate with Angular, React and so much front ends, and then we can develop web apps, and then we can use to create a batch application. This is one of the main feature of Spring. We mostly use this batch application creation using Spring. So let me bring a quick background of what is batch application. So consider a scenario in which we need an application to process say 40,000 or more than records at a single time using an application. In normal application it's very hard to develop this kind of application. So we use Spring Boot to write a code to process those records, and then we set a time. So let's say every day at night, maybe like 10 or 12, start this application, process it, and then store it into a database. So every day at a specific time this application will run, and it will process a batch of records. So similarly, we can develop any batch application for different users. So this is another important field where we use the Spring Boot. And then we use Spring Boot for creating application which supports a microservices architecture. By that I mean, so let me bring a quick background on what is microservices. So in this diagram you can see, so consider in a traditional way we build a big application. It starts from the end user and then it processes it and then to the to the database storage, right? So microservices is what to say, is a technique in which a big instead of a big application we break those application into small microservices, and each microservices will have its own service and process the data. So in this picture we can see, right? So this is an end user. So suppose say end user wants to create a payment by using our application. So it will it will hit an API. So microservices mainly communicates by using APIs. So each microservices will communicate through APIs. So this payment request will hit the payment API, and then it will route it to the specific microservices which will handle the payment API, and then it will connect to the database if needed and then process it. So by this architecture the main use is, even if the payment microservices fails, the other microservices work. So this is one of the main advantage of microservice architecture. So this microservice, right, it will be a Spring Boot app. So each microservices is a separate Spring Boot app. So here is where our Spring Boot comes into play. We can create microservices application. So this is the fields where we mainly use for Spring Boot. And then let's go to the features of Spring Boot. So Spring Boot comes with a main feature which is an embedded server. So instead of creating a separate server and creating and seeing our website, if you want to access a website, localhost, consider a localhost. We create an application and we want to see some kind of output on the local host. We don't need to specify a server for that. Spring Boot comes with an inbuilt Tomcat server which handles every web related activities. And then the other feature would be auto configuration. By that I mean, Spring Boot is very easy to configure. Like if you want to so it mainly falls under a concept of dependency injection. We will discuss about that later in this course. So by that I mean, we can just simply, if you want to create if you want to use a database, we just simply take the dependency and then put into our Spring Boot, and that's it. We don't have to worry about the configuration and all. Spring Boot automatically deals with the configuration. So these are the main features of Spring Boot. Then we will go for the concepts. So these four are the major concepts which build Spring Boot. First one is dependency injection and then inversion of control. Beans will using beans. Spring Boot is fully filled with beans and annotation. So if we know these four concepts, it's enough for Spring Boot to create applications. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you understood. If you have any doubts, please let me know in the comments. In further videos we will discuss about these concepts and all. Yeah, thank you.